So there's another closure today, possibility space, but I want to talk about this one in particular and about responsibility. So possibility space is one of the studios that Jeff Strain started. He started 3 different studios under an umbrella corporation. I'll link to some coverage of it. Both Kotaku and both Aftermath and Game Developer have some good stories on it. Oddly, Kotaku, while mentioned in this, doesn't, because maybe they have to write guides. That sucks because there's real reporters there. And also a reporter from Polygon had covered some stuff. So I'll include all of that. But if you don't know who Jeff Strain is the person who posted this. Undead Labs founder and ex-Blizzard dev Jeff Strain calls for unionization. If this does not show us that our colleagues need support and protection, I can't imagine how much worse it'll have to get. This was about some stuff happening at Blizzard. Well, Jeff, I guess, wanted to make an example of how much worse it could get. So, first of all, markets change. There are things in the industry happening right now that are forcing a lot of these closures. Yes, 100%. But even with that, as a CEO of a studio, when we have laid people off, and we have, it is my fault. It is my fault that I did not make the right choices along the way to make the game better. It is my fault that I didn't make hard choices along the way. You know what? Sometimes the choice is you should fire somebody because they're causing disruption or whatever. That's on me. I signed up to be CEO. I wanted to be the big fancy guy in charge. Ends up but it is my fault. It is all my fault. We tried to treat people fairly and often did that by having be a conversation so everybody knew what was happening. There was no surprises. You were part of those discussions. And so it wasn't a surprise that, hey, this is how much money we have in the bank. This is what payroll looks like. And with that, we tried to make sure people had like an extra month of health care as well as pay and whatever we could to do that. But we're a small company. It was not awesome. It was not great. I will admit to that. I've talked with all the employees about that. It's like, it's not a hidden secret, right? But with that, Jeff has taken this to a whole new level. So when they close Crop Circle Games, his wife is going through some health stuff. I feel for that. I intimately know what that feels like and how much you want to put that straight and forward, but you've also signed up a responsibility for other people's lives as well. And those other people's lives are just as important. It is the shitty thing about being an adult. So with that, they blamed the closure of Crop Circle that the game made was not a product market fit for the current market. That happens. You know whose fault that is? That's the CEO's fault. Because again, you could have made those choices along the way. And you chose not to. Or you weren't paying attention. Or whatever. But this recent today article, so Nicole Carpenter for Polygon had posted some of the letters that other people are posting. But so this was, what happened was there was a leak of emails. So there was a Kotaku reporter who sent some questions about the closures of the studio. And in that, they had some private information. I'll post a letter here. And this is Jeff's letter to the employees, and he's complaining about them leaking information to the reporter. So here's the deal. That's Jeff's fault. Those leaks are Jeff's fault because he's created a culture and a company where people don't care enough about fellow employees to not leak information. They don't care enough about the company to not leak information. Do you know when I left Valve? I didn't sign a leaving agreement. I didn't sign an NDA. I could say whatever I want, but I won't because I care about the people there and I care about the company there because I really like what they're trying to do and I really like the people there. That's a culture created to do that. Jeff could have created that culture. He didn't. I screwed up culture myself. Right? But I will admit it's my fault. I will take that on, that it is my fault. It is always my fault. I mean, again, I've recorded this like 3 times now because it feels weird calling somebody out, but I'm just so sick of this CEO BS where they try to hide from it. Again, I'm not trying to make myself look good because I'm an idiot. But every single thing that has happened with the success or failure of the game, of the company, the success sometimes surprises me because somebody does something I didn't think of. But the failure, always, if I sit there and stare at the wall and think about it long enough, I could trace it back. And it's me. It's always me. And so with this, he says that, like, look there, I didn't pause, I didn't mute. And so you hear Teams. But so he says that the leak is the cause that he went down. He rushed down after the leak, which is a weird thing anyways. You don't normally do that. It's fishy. But he rushed down, and him and the publisher decided that the leak was so egregious that they weren't going to get any more funding. No. There's a problem with the game. There's a problem with what was happening, and that's what happened, right? And so the publisher pulled out. The publisher is using the leak as an excuse. Nobody is being like, "Hey, this game's really good, but you know how we're going to publicly talk about publishing this game? Well, we don't want to publicly talk about it yet, so we're going to close this game down." That makes no sense, right? So Jeff's blaming them. And then Jeff is sending out the emails like, "Hey, this is your last day. Get out of here." And I don't know if severance is coming or not. I really hope it is for those people, because that is a shock to find out today's your last day. And I'm laughing and making jokes here, but I don't mean to be making light of the situation. I really feel for it. But what I really feel for is that everybody who worked at any of the Just Strain companies, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that it closed. It's not your fault that there was a leak. It's not your fault on any of this. It is all Jeff's fault. Yes, you're an adult. Yes, you've made choices yourself and along this way, and you could decide your culpability there. But ultimately, it all traces back to Jeff, right? And so when he talks about the need for unionization, he's damn well right. Or really, some of the labor laws that are getting put forward to try to help with some of this stuff, like the getting rid of non-competes that the Biden administration is putting forward, is really important, because you want to be able to move jobs. You want to be able to change jobs when you see this kind of stuff happening, right? And this is the kind of thing. If I told somebody in Sweden or France what's going on with employees today, they'd be shocked. State of Washington is an at-will state. So if you work, I could just fire you tomorrow for no reason and just say like, no warning. I don't have to give you severance. I don't have to take care of your health care. Nothing. I could just fire you. And that's the way we're set up, because we don't want regulation, man. We want guns, but no regulation. I don't know. All right. But that's how it exists. And so that's where Jeff is sending these people out, because he's so mad that there was a leak. And he's stepping away from the game industry, which is probably good for everybody at this point. So I really feel for everybody there. There was such high hopes and such big promises of what that was going to be in a different kind of studio. And I want to be clear that this does not mean worker controlled studios are bad. It does not mean remote studios are bad. It does not mean giving creative freedom to people is bad. All of that could have been good. All of it could have been, right? So don't blame that. Don't blame the employees. There's one person to blame on this, and he should come out and just say it like, "Hey, I screwed up. Let me list the ways," right? I mean, I have an entire website called Shut Sucks for a reason. It's kind of joking and it's kind of true. When you look back and you do things, if you're honest with yourself, you're going to look back and you're going to realize how much stuff you screwed up, how many mistakes you made, and how you could have changed things and it would have been better and you could have been successful. And that didn't happen isn't because of that one guy, that one employee who just didn't get it. You could have fired them. You didn't. You could have hired somebody new. You could have given somebody who was really great a raise so that they wanted to stick around. Like, all of this is in the control of the CEO. And so while you may not be able to control if a game is successful or not out into the world and the market changing and nobody playing single player games anymore, or whatever thing you want to say, you can't control that. But that's still your fault. But you can control, right? The culpability of those mistakes and that problem and what happened still goes back to one person, and it's the CEO, unless they have co-CEOs. But it goes back to one person. So don't blame the employees. So I really feel for everybody who's been let go there, because it really was a remarkable set of talent that got pulled together to make something. And I would love to see what any of those people make or are making, because this just sucks.